Everyone, Joe Waxman here, and in this video, I want to look at the chart of rapper Notorious B.I.g, Biggie Smalls, Biggie, Big Papa. All right, I'm gonna guys, don't forget to hit the like button, and please subscribe if you have not already. This one is by request. I never really listened to Biggie Smalls. He was not my style, not my, I don't know. I just it felt a little bit, I don't know. My personal impression is that I don't know, I was never attracted to it. It's just, I don't know, for whatever reason. In any case, who cares? All right. Christopher George Latour Wallace, better known by the stage name the Notorious B.I.g, Biggie Smalls or Biggie. Rapper rooted in East Coast hip hop, particularly gangsta rap. And I want to say that's probably the reason I didn't like it, but that's not really the reason, because I did like Tupac, also a gangsta rapper. But I found Tupac more palatable. There's something distasteful, something, I don't know, quite negative about Biggie. And partly I just want to say I have compassion, I have empathy for the whole gangster rap thing, because I think it was a CIA operative to sort of weaken the Black community through culture and music. And there were other ways and means, the importation of drugs into the inner cities, especially Black communities, as well as weapons. That I know. I've watched enough, stuff, videos and articles and stuff documenting all that. There's obviously other things, Planned Parenthood and the drug laws that target Black communities. But basically, there was a whole concerted effort to weaken the Black community. One of the ways which they use is through music and culture. They work through the record industry which encourages their artists to have a certain sound, promising them much more success if they make it more like this or that, whatever. In this case, gangsta rap, right? Promoting the killing of and drug dealing of the Black youth, which are largely the most influenced by it. Obviously it spreads out, but when you glorify violence and drugs and criminality, it spreads. I mean, a lot of people are very impressionable. Most people, in fact, they know that. And this is how they get them to turn to drugs and killing each other, and then they go to jail. That makes money for the jail industry, the prison industry, for-profit prison industry, and removes most of the fathers from the families, and really weakens the Black community as a whole. That's intentional. They did that on purpose, and they do that through multiple avenues. And it's the CIA, and who controls the CIA? It's the powerful elitists, the Illuminati, the globalists, the cabal. So I just want to preface with that it's not organic. Gangsta rap didn't just pop up through the Black community. It was planned. It was a decision made by rich, powerful families meeting in secret, rooms, deciding the fate of humanity. And they've done this through many different, throughout time, and many different cultural movements. They push culture, and that's how they shift and shape society. They've, a lot of different things they did that with. The feminist movement was co-opted by them and organized and planned and channeled into certain directions for their benefit. But that's a whole nother story. In any case, I just want to point out that there's a lot going on behind the scenes. It's not just like Black people did not invent gangster rap. That was primarily white men, but it's not really about white or black. It's about rich, powerful elite. That's the factor. In any case, all right. So he's born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. He signed to Sean Puffy Combs' label, Bad Boy Records, in 1993. Gained exposure through features on several other artists' singles that year. Hip hop always likes to feature different artists. That's one of their cultural things that they do. Not that other people don't, but that they're very, hip hop is known for featuring many different artists. Collaborations. His debut album, Ready to Die, was met with widespread critical acclaim, including his signature song Juicy and Big Papa. The album made him a central figure in East Coast hip hop and restored New York's visibility at the time when the West Coast hip hop scene was dominating hip hop music. He was awarded the Billboard Music Awards Rapper of the Year. He led his protege group, Junior Mafia, a team of himself and longtime friends, including Lil' Kim, to chart success. I should say Lil' Kim. During '96, while recording his second album, he became ensnarled in the escalating East Coast, West Coast hip-hop feud following Tupac Shakur's death and drive-by shooting in Las Vegas in September '96. Speculation of involvement in Shakur's murder by criminal elements orbiting the Bad Boys circulated as a result of Wallace's public feud with Shakur. Wallace was murdered 6 months after Tupac's death by an unidentified assailant, and that whole thing is just very, very fishy and just reeks of CIA involvement or just like government. It just stinks, and a lot of people have various speculations, but I don't trust it. There's a lot of shady stuff behind the scenes. Wallace's second album, Life After Death, double album, was released 2 weeks later, reached #1 on the Billboards, and eventually achieved diamond certification in the United States. With 2 more posthumous albums released, he was certified sales over 28 million copies in the United States. He's been called the greatest rapper that ever lived. I don't know about that, but everyone's entitled to their opinion. I like Tupac more, but in any case. So he's ranked very high among rappers, the most skillful ever on the mic. So different people have different opinions. Okay. In any case. Born in New York to Jamaican immigrants. His father left the family when Wallace was 2 years old. Raised Catholic. He was an excellent student, winning several awards as an English student. Nicknamed Big because he was overweight by the age of 10. He began dealing drugs at the age of 12. Not having his father around, that's part of the breakdown of the Black community. That's intentional. He began rapping as a teenager, entertaining people on the streets and performing in local groups. Let's see here. Wallace was still a good student, but developed a smart-ass attitude at the new school. He dropped out of high school and became more involved in crime, which is, that's such a shame, I guess. He was successful anyway until he died. But he was very intelligent, obviously, and he could have been, a writer, perhaps. Well, he was a writer. A rapper's a writer, but in any case, more education might have kept him out of the criminal element. Anyway. He was arrested on a weapons charge in Brooklyn and sentenced to 5 years probation. He was arrested for violation of probation. Arrested for dealing crack cocaine, spent 9 months in jail before making bail. He made a demo tape, and then it got passed around, and he was 6'3" and weighed between 300 and 380 pounds, so big guy. Let's see. Puffy got a hold of it and signed b.i.g, and he appeared on some various songs as a collaboration. Puffy created Bad Boy Records, and that was Wallace's new label. He gave birth to his first child, Tiana, but he split up with his longtime girlfriend, and he continued dealing drugs. Combs discovered that and obliged him to quit. He gained exposure on a remix of Mary J. Blige's single Real Love. All right. He became friends with Tupac. And let's see what else. Both of them are Geminis. And he did some other songs, collaborations and whatnot. He married Faith Evans, an R&B singer. So 5 days later, he had his first chart success with Juicy and Unbelievable, which reached #7. And then he released his album Ready to Die in 1994. I mean, it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know, like you court a thing, something, and then you surround yourself with that kind of energy, and eventually you create it for yourself. I mean, that's kind of like magic, right? Not kind of. This is magic. This is occultism. This is how they do it. You encourage somebody down a path, they're courting that kind of energy, and then they get mixed into it, and then they become it. I mean, that's literally how you create magic. It starts with a seed, and then you grow that seed into a full-blown fruit tree, and it bears fruit, ready to die. I mean, what's going to happen when you write, when your album is, when your record label is Bad Boy Records and your album is called Ready to Die? What do you think is going to happen? Right? It should have been Ready to Live, and it should have been Good Boy Records. Then he would still be alive, making music and business and all that. This is literal magic, and the CIA is controlled by occultists who are, you know, Illuminati, satanic. They're evil, but they understand occultism. They understand psychology. They understand all this stuff that I dabble in, but on the good side, astrology. And I'm aware enough of the dark side of it that I stay out of that. I'm a good boy, you know. I court good things. I meditate. I eat well. I don't do any of the dark stuff. So you just have to be aware. You have to understand what all this is and how they manipulate people and how they control people. He was controlled. Platinum selling Big Papa, which reached #1 in the US rap chart, and One More Chance, which sold. Yeah. He gained. All right. So he started becoming successful as a rapper. Made many collaborations. Shaquille O'Neal. Let's see. He got into trouble. Let's see. I don't know. That's not right. Recorded a song with Michael Jackson. And what else? And then there was the coastal feud when he got successful between East Coast and West Coast. He created the protege group Junior Mafia with Lil Kim and Lil Cease. I don't know Lil Cease, but Lil Kim, she's pretty famous. And I think they were involved romantically, perhaps. Sure. All right. Now Shakur is his former friend. And let's see. Tupac did time and accused Uptown Records and founder Andrew Hall, Sean Combs, and Wallace of having prior knowledge of a robbery that resulted in him being shot 5 times and losing thousands of dollars. So who knows what really happened there? You know, people that are involved in crime don't really tell the truth. So you're never gonna know. They're not gonna just be like, I did it, it was me. Although they might. In any case, Shakur signed to Death Row Records, same thing, right? You signed to a label called Death Row Records. What are you courting? You're courting death. I mean, what do you think? Why? Why? Death is cool. It's cool to die. Well, you'll probably end up being cool, which means being dead. So it's stupid. It's really ignorant. Of course, they're manipulated. You know, they're somebody at the top is being paid, and they're saying, get these rappers to be into gangster and shooting and each other and killing and stuff like that. You know, like ridiculous. And I know they did that because, like, it even said, like, with the Fugees, they were encouraged to make a gangster rap album, which was their first album. It wasn't that gangstery compared to others, but still. Tupac made the hit track, diss track, Hit 'Em Up. And then Tupac got killed, unfortunately. And there's a lot of speculation about that. Nobody really knows the truth. Could have been some CIA involvement there. And then life after death. What is that? All right, so Wallace traveled to California to promote his album Life After Death. Why is everything like, you know what I mean? Like, who told? They're just coming up with this stuff, like just death, everything's death, and bad boy and drugs and shooting. Like, what? That's not organic. Somebody's being like, hey, make everything about death and killing and drugs and shooting and stupid. I mean, it's totally contrived. It's totally somebody at the top calling the shots, and then it just goes down from there. And then he got shot, of course. Okay. He was 27. Right. So he's got a Gemini sun conjunct Saturn, not too close, 8 degrees, but still. And sun conjunct Saturn is difficult. A lot of rappers have Gemini suns. I have a Gemini sun because Gemini obviously is excellent with words and expression, and it's in the 3rd house. So 3rd house Gemini sun, right? 3rd quadrant, 4th whole sign. And sun is ruling the 6th house. So there's going to be a lot of conflict and competition and up and coming with the 6th house Lord in the 3rd, 4th house. And let's see, Saturn's ruling the 11th and 12th, so creativity and groups and networks. So he's, obviously coming together with groups and networks, career success in Gemini, in expression, in words, in communication, and all that. 0 degrees Gemini, no less. So really, when a planet's at 0 degrees, it has kind of unbridled, unlimited ability in that sign. Not ability, but expression, or let's see, it can go to extremes. It can go to extremes, right? It has no limitations in a sense. It can be a very full expression of that sign, that element. Right, so there's this quality that's very, very Gemini, very, like when you first discover something new, it's like the wow factor. It's like the honeymoon period. It's a whole new whole new energy for this sun that it's just it's fascinated with. So it's something really new and shiny about the 0-degree planet. The Saturn, however, is difficult. It's restrictive. It's limiting. For the sun and Saturn are not a good combination, and also not good for the father. Obviously, father is gone at a young age. Didn't really have his father. They're opposite Neptune. Neptune is about creativity, drugs, alcohol, and illusion, delusion, fantasy, disappearance. But so his relationships are, start out one way, then go another way. Like Tupac, his wife, they fell out. His girlfriend, they fell out. And a lot of people probably going to take advantage of him, take advantage of his career success. Fake friends, drug, alcohol friends, people who want to take money from him. Yes. And let's see. Uranus in the 8th house, accidents, accidental, not very good. So the sun, it is trine. It does have some good quality. It's trine the North Node, but he was not old enough. North Node was not really active. If he had lived longer, that would have been, probably would have been a businessman, developed a very successful business if he had lived longer. Pluto is also trine the sun, so that gives him a good relationship with Pluto. But however, Pluto is still Pluto, and Pluto is at the 29th degree of Virgo, and planets at the 29th degree are in decay. So this is a destructive element, in fact, and it gives him some success because of the trine with destructive elements. So, like, for instance, he can be, involved in drugs and the darker side of life with some relative success. He can pull it off. However, it is still a destructive factor. Pluto's always Pluto, whether it's, it's going to be worse if it's square or inconjunct or even conjunct. The trine is probably the best case scenario, but still at the 29th degree, that is difficult. It's not a healthy Pluto. This is a Pluto in decay, because it's about to renew itself into Libra. So yeah, a lot of Gemini energy. Saturn is okay in Gemini because of the air sign, air relationship. Saturn rules the air triplicity, so it has some dignity in Gemini. Good for thinking, good for scientific type stuff, or literary. Could go either way. And he was, but his Mercury has a lot more to do with that. But still, this is enhancing the Gemini ability. And Saturn here is going to give a very solid grasp of Gemini stuff, which would be writing, communication, obviously, word choices, expression. It's going to crystallize it, it's going to harden it, it's going to firm it. And so that's quite good. And it probably did help a lot with his rapping abilities. And as well as his ability to bring people together, groups, networks, 12th house for creativity, obviously. So that sort of thing. There's not really any aspects besides the conjunction to the sun from Saturn. Not any strong aspects. A little bit of a square of the ascendant. Yeah. Moon in Virgo in the 7th house. So he cares for, this is a caring moon. Moon in the 7th really likes to care for people. It likes its friends, it likes its relationships. Moon is the heart, is the concern. It you know, so he wants to help people out, and that was obvious with the people that he protéged, partnered with. You know, he did a lot of collaborations. He did a lot of you know, work with other rappers and fellow R&B artists, or you know, hip hop, you know, people. Like he was a helpful friend, right? That's Moon in Virgo. Virgo is all about service to others. Moon is the concern. So Moon in Virgo really does like to help people, especially a social house like the 7th. What's really strong here is this 14-degree Mercury in Taurus, which is dispositing the Sun and Saturn, exactly trine the Moon in Virgo, right? This is a very powerful combination because it's mutual reception by exaltation. Mercury is exalted in Virgo, Moon is exalted in Taurus, right? So now the 3rd house cusp and the 7th house are connected, and exchanging energies. So 3rd house being the intellect, the writing ability, the rapping ability, the communicating ability, and the 7th house, the relationships, the other, getting it out to the crowd, the masses, in a personal way, right? So he can really relate to the people this way, right? So like 7th and 10th both are very prominent for fame and success. And if you watch the video I just did, the Bava one about the harmonious, the complementary sign for each axis, the 7th house is 10th from the 10th. So this has like a 10th house quality. It's because it's like the 10th from the 10th. So it's like the 10th house of the 10th house, or the career of the career. So it has this quality, this amplification of the 10th house, the 7th house. So you got to realize any planets conjunct the descendant have a quality that is similar to the 10th house. It is the career of the career, the 10th house of the 10th house, the public image of the public image, right? So it's an amplification of the 10th house. So there's that. You always have to take that into consideration. It's like a secondary 10th house, you could say. So it is getting it out to the masses, to the public, but in a more personal way. So yes. This Mercury conjunct or trine Moon, this is excellent, by the way. I have this, not to the exact degree, but I have it. Moon in Virgo, Mercury in Taurus, Gemini Sun, but his is closer by degree. But my Mercury is slower, so, but it's different. So any case, but this is excellent. But this is very powerful, and this is probably Sun and Saturn in Gemini, 3rd house Mercury, trine Virgo Moon. You know, the 14 degrees. This is really where a lot of his talent lies, for being a rapper, for being considered one of the best rappers. And then if you look at Uranus here, 14 degrees as well. Now Uranus is playing in, and Uranus is tremendously compatible with Mercury, because it gives that brilliance, right? Mercury is the intellect. Uranus is the spark of genius. It's that brilliant insight. And there's an inconjunct here, which is a conflictual aspect. It brings in a lot of disharmony. It brings in qualities of Virgo or Scorpio, 6th and 8th house. But nonetheless, when it's an exact aspect, it's still connecting. It's connecting in a challenging way, but you know, so there's going to be element like for some sharp elements with the Uranus, you know, in conjunct Scorpio, but this semi-sextile to the Moon, it's still connecting. It's still connecting in a unique way. So I mean, there's going to be sharpness, some sparks, some conflict in his expression, his way of communicating, some aggression, some, you know, ouchy material, right? Hurts a little bit, but nonetheless brilliant, right? Yeah, and we could also relate the Pluto to the sun there. The Pluto is going to bring in that darker, heavier element, the bad boy image, the dealing the drugs, and the shoot 'em up gangsta, rap image. And he really embodies that. Like, even it just like, the image on the album cover, he looks like a bad boy. Like, he looks like he's portraying a bad boy image, right? And that's with the sun, the sun trine Pluto. He's pulling that off, the bad boy image. And he was a bad boy, no doubt about that. He's also has a Pisces ascendant, and Pisces, for his size, that's very appropriate, because Pisces is very expansive. It's no boundaries, boundarylessness, right? Ruled by Jupiter, also Neptune. So if you want to know about somebody's body, the actual physical body, you look to the ascendant and ascendant rulers. This is the personal sense of self, right? Versus the sun is really how we interact with the world. It's our worldly image, our personality, our personal sense of self is much more about Jupiter and Neptune. And our inner self is more like the moon, right? Inner emotions. So Jupiter's in Capricorn, and it's debilitated in Capricorn, but it's in the 10th house, right? And Jupiter's also ruling the MC. He was an MC. They're both MCs. MC means rapper. MC also means midheaven in astrology. Interesting. So his MC ruler and ascendant lord is Jupiter. It's in poor dignity, but remember, with planets that are in poor dignity can still work well. They just behave badly, right? And so if your goal is to have a bad boy image, well, a planet in poor dignity will achieve that, right? You don't want to be like, if his Jupiter was in Cancer, and he was trying to portray like a bad boy, he would be considered a poser or fake, because he would be exuding this very nice, polished, just think of like Steve Carell posing as like a gangster rapper. It's silly, it's laughable. I mean, it's comedy, it's comedic, like it would be funny. Or like Betty White as a gangster rapper, right? It's hilarious, but it's not, nobody's going to take them serious. We're not going to be like, oh yeah, they're legit, they're OG, they're real gangsters, right? No, not. I mean, it's funny, it's a funny image, right? Versus Eminem, even though he's white, right? I don't like in the whole racial paradigm. I'm not into like the racial divisions, but he does play that. He plays a bad boy very well, right? And Lenny Bruce also, for a lot of planets in poor dignity, plays a bad boy very well. I have to pause this for 1 second again. All right, I'm back. All that coffee, it's got to come out. All right, start with this. All right, here we go. So yes, Jupiter and Capricorn, bad boy, because that's, it's his career. It's also his ascendant lord. Not so great for the body though. Like, we got to remember that. Like, even though if it's like cool to be a bad boy, all right, mission accomplished. But a planet in poor dignity is also going to create problems, right? It's and this is his ascendant lord. So physically, not super strong. And that we could look at that as part of the weight gain, right? It's also retrograde, so he's going to be going against the grain. Jupiter in Capricorn retrograde certainly is if other factors are supportive, this is definitely somebody who could potentially lean towards criminality, which he did. luckily he was talented enough to not have to go that direction fully, and he went more towards rap and was obviously successful in that route. But criminality could easily be because the retrograde and the poor dignity. So he likes to be bad and he likes to go against the grain. So naturally, he's going to break laws and do what he's not supposed to do and that sort of thing. And Jupiter in the 10th house, obviously, is going to bring career success in a sort of almost negative way. You could say, like, he could also be like a businessman. He could be like a ruthless businessman who just apparently doesn't care about doing the right thing, just makes money and is ruthless about it, but very good at it and makes a lot of money, right? That sort of thing as well would be appropriate. That's why I think if he lived longer with the North Node in Capricorn in the 11th house, he could have developed a business, right? 11th house group, network, collaboration, coming together in a group, and made lots of money. Capricorn 11th house, money, Jupiter. Right? So that sort of thing. But interestingly enough, he has two mutual receptions. Here, Mars is in Cancer. Mars is not good in Cancer, or rather, Mars is debilitated in Cancer, conjunct Venus. Now, Venus and Mars together are an excellent combination, conjunction for artists, musicians, any creative type, because it creates a lot of passion. Mars and Venus are like the male-female personal planets, masculine, feminine, yin and yang, and together they work well together. They can create a very strong physicality or just a very potent sexual energy or passion that is infused into the arts or creativity. So stuff like that. Mars in Cancer can be violent. It can be overly sexual. It can be violent. So you'll see this like with people who are use their Martian sexuality and physicality in negative ways, either for violence or for overt sexuality. Like you might see this with a stripper or a prostitute or somebody who's just overly sexual. Or overly physically violent, right? And he did have assault charges brought against him on at least one occasion. If people got in his face, he would probably resort to violence pretty easily. However, Mars and Jupiter are pretty opposite, and this is a mutual reception because Mars is exalted in Capricorn, Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. So 4th and 10th house are being, well, yeah, I mean, it's in the 4th house, 4th leaning into 5th, and 10th moving into the 11th. But so like 4th, 10th, 5th, 11th, they're trading energies, as well as you could pull in the rulership houses of the ascendant and 10th and 9th and 2nd, and even the 3rd. Venus is getting mixed in there, 3rd and 8th. Let's see. So if Mars is ruling the 2nd, so that's voice, and 9th house will really help with the writing and the academics, the intelligence, the overall intelligence, the quality, because 9th house is very high level, intelligence and academia and stuff like that. So it's gonna raise the quality of it a lot, being the 9th house lord and this the 2nd lord. So the voice and the quality, as well as the career and his personal, his own self, his iconic status, his self Yeah, his self-success. So that's good. That's really helping out his his abilities, his career success a lot. It's bringing in a lot of positive energies into it. So even though this Jupiter is in Capricorn and he can pull off this bad boy image and likes to be, Mr. Gangster drug dealer, tough guy rapper, and Mars is in Cancer. So all of those things, the negative associations are still there, but then he's pulling in the opposite. Mars in Capricorn is going to be much more self-controlled. It's going to be, physically strong, but Mars in Capricorn is likely to be like the person who trains physically and becomes a badass, but is very honorable. And Jupiter in Cancer has heart wisdom, loving wisdom, caring wisdom, right? So he's pulling that in, and he's having, it's a dual nature there, and that's kind of attractive when somebody can have two sides of themselves. One side being like the negative bad guy, the other side being like the good guy, helping people, caring. So he's pulling that in. It's helping him out a lot. And this is interesting because mutual receptions aren't always so reversed, right? For instance, if it's by trine, then Moon in Virgo is okay. It's not debilitated, and Mercury in Taurus is okay as well. But these are great. This trine is like, super strong. This one is a bit more difficult because it's opposite, right? So you're pulling in opposite energies. So he's like the good bad guy or the bad good guy, right? So yeah, like that. The devil angel kind of dichotomy coming together. Venus is also the 8th house lord, and it is opposite his ascendant lord. So that's not good, right? That is, that's if your ascendant lord is opposite the 8th house lord, that's tricky because now you have an opposition, and one side you have the lord of death, and the other side you have the physical representation of your body. Potentially devastating. Mars, debilitated Mars, violent Mars is also there. So that can be violence, and a weak body, Even this mutual reception is good, but the opposition, it makes it very difficult at the same time. I'd much rather see the trine with the mutual reception than the opposition. So yeah. And this Neptune is also opposite, or not opposite, in conjunct Venus, drugs, alcohol, deception, lies, deceit, in relationships, and even in friendships. Yeah. So this Neptune is not good, because you can see it's got an opposition to the sun and an in conjunct to Venus. I mean, potentially good for creativity, because there is that connection. Venus is very creative. Neptune is very creative. The in conjunct is still a connection. It's still going to add to the creative elements. But as far as being deceived in relationship, in his personal connections in general, even to this Mars, so male female friendships, definitely there's a lot of deception going on. But the position in general, I mean, Neptune in the 10th whole sign house is excellent for an artist, because they can deceive the public, and that's what you want. The public wants to be deceived by an artist, because that's how you become illusion. It's the illusion, right? The illusion of whatever he's portraying, an image. He's not really everything he portrays, but he's pushing out a mirage, an artistry, a fakery, if you will, but an intentional one, right? Yeah. So that's interesting. And also the Jupiter is expanding this Venus Mars fourth fifth house combination here, which is also quite good for art, for creativity. You know, both the Sun, Saturn, and Venus and Mars are pulling in a bit of fourth house, and fourth house is going to represent the hometown, and this is why with strong fourth house representation, he can stand for the New York crew, right? He can be like the New York representative, the hip hop rap representative of New York and East Coast, because he's pulling in the hometown, the fourth house. And so whenever you have strong fourth house, you can represent the homeland, the home turf, the homeland. You can be like a politician for that, for your turf, right? And so like, like El Chapo had a strong fourth house representation, and he was repping his turf. He's repping a large area of land. And even though he's not typically not actually a politician, he's playing a similar role, right? It's the same with Notorious b.i.g. He's being a politician in a sense for his hometown, New York, East Coast. He's repping it, right? So that's the fourth house. Okay. Let's go back to this again. Moon is not only, see, Moon is pulling in the fifth house because it's ruling the fifth house and the seventh house. And the third house, because it's exalted in the third, right? So a planet will have more than one. It'll influence the house it's in. It'll influence the house it rules by domicile, and the house it rules by exaltation, right? So there's three influences. So Moon, being with the mutual reception to Mercury here, is going to create good relationships. Fifth house of creativity and children, and third house of expression and communication and intellect. And then Mercury also is going to do something similar. Third house, because it's in the third house. Fourth house, so repping the East Coast, New York, home turf. And seventh house again. Yeah, so, and these are all exchanging energies, Moon, Mercury together, right? So that's very strong. So we get third, fourth, fifth, and seventh with this mutual reception that are all very strong. And then likewise, Mars is going to do the same with its domicile, so second, 9th, and 11th. And then Jupiter 10th, 1st, and 5th. So the 5th is doubly represented and doubly strengthened by these planets. Sorry, sometimes I trip over my words. There's another bad aspect on the Sun, that's the Chiron, the semi-square to Sun and Chiron, and so that's difficult. And so with the Sun being not super strong, it's opposite Neptune, and in conjunct, or no, not in conjunct, sorry, sesquisquare to Uranus. So he's not going to have this great star quality. He's not going to be like he doesn't have like movie star quality, because the Sun is not strong enough. So he's not going to be drafted for the big screen, or if he does, it's not going to be a huge success point for him. His real success is his rapping abilities, right? And the career in general, career success through rapping. That's the main thing. Uranus here is opposite Chiron. It's in the 8th house. So 8th house already is accident prone. Uranus connected to Scorpio or Pluto or 8th house or ascendant. That's not so good because it can mean they're accident prone, right? And then the opposite Chiron, you know, 8th house is where we look to for longevity. Uranus in the 8th, unfortunately, can, not always, but can mean sudden death, right? So, yeah. So there's a couple indications that he has to be careful, right? 8th lord opposite his ascendant lord, Uranus in the 8th, opposite Chiron, right? 8th lord conjunct a debilitated Mars, which is, you know, violence. So, yeah, that's not so great. Pluto trine the sun is okay, but the 29th degree of Pluto is very difficult. Again, like I said before, right? South node, sesquisquare the ascendant. That's probably not great either, but it's not great for either node. Yeah, that's interesting. What else? Oh yeah, so his Venus is pretty slow, and Venus and Mars are both out of bounds. So Venus being pretty slow, that's good for creativity. It's not super slow, but it is, you know, 5 days from retrostation. And being out of bounds, again, you know, if Mars is ruling the second, also that is consumption habits. Chiron, he likes to eat weird things. You could say that with Chiron here. Because the eating habits are second house. You know, so debilitated Mars, conjunct Venus. Venus and Mars are out of bounds. Venus also will be his indulgence. So out of bounds, indulgent, overly indulgent, right? Second lord conjunct Venus. He loves, you know, loves fatty, rich sweets and stuff like that. Rich fatty foods. Yeah. South node is in fifth house, clearly. 5th whole sign house, 5th quadrant. So, you know, children, entertainment, fun and games, performance, all that is and Cancer, being emotional and relationships. 5th lord in the 7th is good for relationships because there's a lot of fun, right? You're bringing in a lot of very fun, entertaining, romantic house into relationships, so that's quite good. So people like him for sure, and he's very helpful, and he likes to help people. Yeah. All right. Let me just pull up the Draconic. I didn't even look at that, but I'm curious. Okay, Jupiter is in domicile right on the ascendant. Okay. That's pretty interesting. Big guy, Jupiter can expand. Jupiter doesn't always make a person fat, whether it's natal or draconic. So I'm not putting it up to that. I already think I explained why. Debilitated ascendant lord, and then second lord also debilitated conjunct Venus. He's a bit indulgent. That's okay. It is what it is. Very expansive. Jupiter is excellent on the ascendant. Makes somebody very Jupiterian, iconic, successful, just great for them, their persona, their everything, right? Especially in good dignity here. You know, he'll be an icon, a successful person. North node in the first, second. Well, it's, you know, not conjunct anything. Moving right along. Ascendant, right on Mercury, draconic ascendant, showing that, and Mercury also gains directional strength when it's connected to the ascendant. So when Mercury is on the ascendant, it's very, very witty, very quick-minded. These people have their brains, their intellect like right there. It's like all the words and communication. It's just like they can just fire it off, you know, so quick-witted, so quick-minded, so lucid, right? Mercury in the 5th in Cancer, that's okay. Sun in Leo, so very strong Sun in the 5th, very creative. That seems to fit quite well. Venus and Mars approaching the 7th. Yeah, that's, you know, it's pretty good, I guess. Venus does not do well in Virgo, but not so creative, but good for, you know, like the editorial side of things, for picking and choosing and cleaning and organizing and knowing exactly what he wants, being very critical minded, but also competitive at the same time, pulling in some 6th house. Virgo, bit of a fighty nature with Mars here, but very passionate. Scorpio moon in the 9th. So I don't think he's very religious. He has a pretty difficult relationship with God, with religion, with faith and optimism. It's pretty tumultuous. Scorpio moon conjunct the 9th house cusp shows yeah, a very difficult relationship with religion and philosophy and God and all that. You know, Jupiter and Capricorn tends to be extremely skeptical of anything like that. Neptune and Pluto here. I mean, that's pretty destructive. Drugs, alcohol, lies, deception in a very deep, dark way. I mean, combining these two, it is opposite the sun opposite draconic Pluto. Not great, not very bright, very kind of dark and heavy. Combined with this Pluto thing, Neptune, actually, I meant. And then Uranus here as well. You know, conjunct the MC. That's wild. Uranus and Sag is a wild combination, but independent, kind of genius, unique. You know, all the things for his career, making him very standout, one of a kind. Yeah. All right. The rest is not noteworthy. So that's pretty much it for b.i.g, Notorious b.i.g. My hope is that you know, that what I guess I just have a lot of empathy for the whole gangsta rap thing that was infiltrated into the Black community, because I think it was extremely destructive and divisive, and it wasn't organic and it wasn't healthy, and it was used to really bring them down, and I feel for that. You know, I'm aware of it, and I wish it wasn't so, or I hope it's not so anymore. I hope they learn from it and grow out of it, and choose to follow a more creative path that promotes life and truth and health and happiness, rather than death and destruction and misery and all that. So in any case, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Please hit the like button if you did. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below. Say something, anything, and book a reading with me. My website is macroastrology.com. My email is macrogoalmachine@yahoo.com. And That's it for now. All right, thank you. Bye.